This is a self-training course for flaggers. As such, it must serve the needs of flaggers with varying backgrounds and levels of experience. You may be a first-time flagger, and many of the guidelines and principles may be new to you. The course will be very beneficial to you as it covers the general principles and guidelines that are important for a flagger to know. You want to know the proper way to flag in Wyoming. This develops a consistency in flagging that trains the motorist. If all flaggers use the same procedures for similar situations, then the motorist will have a better understanding of what you want them to do. You may be a flagger with many years' experience, and this will simply be a refresher course. As such, the flagger training course will be a reminder to think about the situations you'll encounter as a flagger. This course does not cover every situation, but using the general principles and guidelines that are put forth here, flaggers should be able to handle most situations that might arise on the job site. When something does come up that is unfamiliar, don't be afraid to ask for advice and help. As a flagger on a construction job in Wyoming, you have an important job that carries heavy responsibility. You're responsible for the safety of the motorist and your fellow workers, as well as yourself. Let me say that again. You're responsible for the safety of the motorist and your fellow workers, as well as yourself. The minimum age to flag on a Wyoming construction project is 18, but some contractors may have an age criteria which requires flaggers to be older than 18. By their very nature, construction work zones are confusing to motorists at best, and at worst, they're dangerous. Flaggers doing their job in an efficient manner can reduce both the confusion and the danger to the motorist. In doing this, there will be fewer accidents in work zones and a reduction in the number of motorists and workers who are killed or injured in our construction zones. Flagging is an important job, and we want you to take the responsibility seriously. Good flaggers possess several important attributes. First, flaggers must be intelligent. Flaggers operate in dangerous areas. They are vulnerable. Not all circumstances are covered in this training, and the flagger must be able to handle the non-standard situations as well as the more typical situations. This training covers the guidelines and standards for flagging. It's impossible to cover all situations, but the principles will apply to even the unusual situations. Flaggers must be able to handle emergencies. Flaggers must have patience. Some situations requiring a flagger for proper traffic control will be at locations with very little traffic. It's very easy to become bored and think of other things. It might be tempting to read a book or listen to a Walkman. This is dangerous. Therefore, radio earphones are not allowed, and if using a radio, the volume must be low enough to hear approaching traffic or other audio messages as needed. A flagger must remain alert and ready to do their jobs at all times. A flagger on the highway must be in good physical condition. There are rigors associated with the Wyoming climate. Sometimes it will be incredibly hot, and other times incredibly cold, and it will seem like the wind is always blowing. Flaggers are required to work in these conditions for as long as 8 to 12 hours a day, and sometimes 7 days a week. The work is physically demanding. It requires strength to adequately handle the paddle and flag in the Wyoming winds. Good vision and hearing are also necessary for safe flagging. Flagging is communication, and the flagger must have appropriate skills. Usually we think of communication as a verbal skill. This can be important in flagging. Often a flagger gives information to the motorist as to the length of time of the delay or conditions the motorist may encounter as they drive through the work area. This is verbal communication. In Wyoming, the predominant language is English, and the flagger must be able to communicate with the motorist in that language. However, controlling traffic with the paddle and hand signals is also communicating with the motorist. This training course will give you the basics of these skills. It will be up to you to put the skills into practice. The flagger must be alert. Flaggers who are tired or impaired by drugs or alcohol have no business on the highway. Both anger and stress can affect the performance of the flagger. When a flagger is not mentally alert and ready, they put themselves and the public at risk. Be aware that as a flagger, you will encounter many unusual and stressful situations. It may be an angry motorist who feels it's your fault the road is blocked and vents his anger at you. It may be a belligerent motorcycle rider or an impatient truck driver with a schedule to meet. If you can't handle these and a multitude of other situations that will arise, then flagging is not the job for you. There is equipment you will be required to use. Some of the equipment is to communicate with the motorist or other workers, and some is to protect you by making you more visible to the motorist. National guidelines recommend that the primary motorist communication device be a stop-slow paddle, and in Wyoming, the paddle is required. It is octagonal in shape with a minimum dimension of 18 inches. On the stop side, the background must be red with 6-inch white letters and a white border. The background color for the slow side of the paddle shall be orange with 6-inch black letters and border. An orange or fluorescent orange flag can be used as a device to draw attention to the flagger in the same way that flags are used on signs. A flag used in this manner must be a minimum of 18 inches square. The flag is not to be used to control or direct traffic. It is simply an attention device. The flag is to be used only as a means of drawing the motorist's attention to you. It is not to be used as a wand to direct traffic. The flag is to be constructed of a solid material. Mesh flags are not to be used. The flag is used as a supplemental warning device during daylight operations. If a flagger is required during hours of darkness, a flashlight with a 6-inch red cone or a lighted wand shall be substituted for the flag. In an emergency, a flag may be used to control traffic rather than the stop-slow paddle. For your protection, you must wear a strong yellow-green vest and hard hat. Most flagging operations are in the vicinity of orange and white channelizing devices, and the strong yellow-green is a contrast to the orange and white background. In some circumstances, the background color may be such that the strong yellow-green vest and hard hat blend in. This can happen when flagging in the mountains, where the green trees of the forest blend with the strong yellow-green vest and hard hat. When this occurs, the location of the flagger should be chosen to make the flagger as visible as possible. The strong yellow-green vest must be reflective. The purpose of the hard hat and vest is to make the flagger more visible to the motorist. Most vests are made from mesh material, and light-colored clothing should be worn under the mesh vest to make the flagger more visible. Dirty or faded gear reduces flagger visibility and should not be used. In addition to the special equipment for flaggers, there are other important considerations. You'll be on your feet all day. You must have proper shoes to be able to stand for long periods. Good, durable, waterproof, insulated boots are the best footwear for cold weather. A neat and official appearance is important as an aid in identification and respect by the motorist. Clothing must be sensible and adequate for the weather conditions you will encounter. In the summer, a jacket is needed for chilly mornings and evenings, but lighter clothing throughout the day. Always wear a top, preferably light-colored, under your vest. It protects from sunburn and is required when flagging. Rain gear should be available. The rain gear should not be so tight that it limits your motions and movements when you're flagging. In the winter, warm clothing is a necessity. Ski masks protect the face, and warm gloves or mittens protect the hands. Frostbite is a continuous threat during winter flagging. There are other items you'll want to have available, such as sunscreen, insect repellent, treatment for insect bites or stings, and drinking water. All of your equipment, particularly that which depends on color to make you visible, should be in like-new condition. Care for your equipment as if your life depends on it. It just might. You should never occupy a flagger station on any roadway without some type of advance warning to the motorist that something unusual is taking place on the roadway ahead. Generally, you will start to communicate with the motorist through the use of signs which are placed on the roadway in advance of your flagger station. The number of signs can vary depending upon the actual construction operation. However, a minimum of 2, an advanced warning sign and the flagger sign, should be used. In most situations, a "Be Prepared to Stop" sign will also be used. Both the flagger and the "Be Prepared to Stop" signs are to be equipped with flags. The distance between the flagger signs and the flagger may vary with the traffic volume and the speed of the traffic on the road. In low-speed urban areas, the signs may be as close as 100 feet. On rural 2-lane roads with higher speeds, 500 feet is generally a minimum distance. On an interstate highway, the signs may be 1,000 feet in advance of the flagger station. Make sure you don't position yourself too far from your advance signs. When the flagger gets more than a half mile from a flagger sign, the approaching motorist may think the sign was placed in error or wasn't removed when the road work was completed. When this happens, the advance warning effects of the sign are lost. In an emergency, signs may not be available, and you may have to control traffic without them. In these circumstances, use the flashing beacons on construction equipment or the 4-way flashers on a car or truck to warn the incoming motorist that something unusual is happening. There are many things you'll need to consider when you select a location to set up a flagger station. Visibility, or the ability to see oncoming traffic, and the ability for the motorist to see you, is the first consideration. This means the flagger station location should be determined based on the layout of the roadway. For example, the far side of a hill is not a first choice to put a flagger station. The hill will restrict your vision of oncoming traffic and their ability to see you. Curves in the road can restrict sight distance, particularly if there is vegetation alongside the road. A question you need to consider is how much sight distance is required. The answer is enough for the oncoming vehicle to see you or the last car in the line of traffic you're controlling and stop easily. On the open highway under normal operating speeds, this is about 600 feet. At 45 miles an hour, adequate stopping sight distance is about 400 feet, and at 30 miles an hour, 200 feet of sight distance is required. You must also consider how near you should be to the work zone. This will vary with the type of construction. In general, you want to be as near to the work operation as safety allows. The shorter the work zone controlled by flaggers, the less delay there is to motorists. Also, consider the background around you. If you're stationed in a line of drums, they tend to make you less visible to oncoming traffic. Consider moving to the opposite side of the road if it can be done safely to improve your visibility. Do not stand in shadows. Dark areas make it difficult for motorists to see you. Always consider an escape route when choosing a flagging location. Avoid locations which don't allow you to move quickly out of the way of a motorist who may not see you, is driving impaired, or simply makes a mistake. Always be alert and ready to move in any direction at any time. Since flaggers are responsible for the safety of other people, they must stay at their stations until properly relieved. It's the responsibility of the supervisor to make sure that procedures are set up for relieving flaggers as needed. Stopping traffic. Normally, you should begin by standing on the shoulder of the oncoming traffic lane with the stop paddle closest to the road. The stop paddle should be held in an upright position and at an arm's length away from your body. This increases the target value by separating the paddle from the high visibility clothing you're wearing. The paddle should not be waved from side to side. It should be held stationary. To make yourself more visible, you may wave a flag over the stop paddle. Remember, the flag is only used to draw attention to you and your stop-slow paddle. It is never used as a pointer or a wand. To stop the first approaching vehicle while standing on the shoulder, the paddle should have the stop facing the oncoming car, and you may wave the flag over the paddle. Try to make eye contact with the approaching driver. When the first car is stopped, walk in front of the car to the driver's side of the stopped vehicle. Give the driver a brief explanation of the situation ahead and information about the expected delay. Act professional. Be brief, firm, and courteous. Do not lean on the stopped cars and engage in idle conversation. Give information and necessary directions, and stay alert. Stay to the front of the stopped vehicle, making sure that you are still clearly visible to traffic. You may be near the center line of the road when you assume this flagging position. Stay on your side of the road and take care not to step into the path of traffic that may be coming from the opposite direction. This is the position for you to hold traffic. You should stay here, stopping additional vehicles as they approach your flag or station. Hold your position and continue to stop vehicles until it's time to release traffic. As you stop the first car, you may want to position it in a certain location on the roadway. On curves, for example, you may want the first vehicle close to the edge of the road. This will help you see oncoming vehicles as well as increasing your visibility to the approaching drivers. Generally, positioning a vehicle can be done by using the stop